Hello and welcome to Illuminated Design. Bella and myself come live once a month to go into a specific center in the human design chart and illuminate how it affects that person's design. The human design system is holistic. So we're not going to look at just the ego hub. We normally go into what's happening there and how does it influence and impact other areas of the chart. And just like our readings, we tend to be really drawn to a certain place and dig and uncover and find things that may be relevant to our exploration today. So the ego hub is where we have been in the inner circle for our intensive. And if you still want to join the inner circle, you'll get access to an almost 90-minute teaching we did. We did an embodiment webinar, and we have a lot of activity going on in the Facebook group as well, plus an audio that Brandy Jordan has created for us. And I think there's a few other things, but today we're going to go into the charts of two inner circle members. So every month, there's a potential for a couple inner circle members to get their chart read by us. And the illuminated design readings are normally very specific focused because they're usually super short, and we're only going to be spending a little bit of time in each of these charts. So it's not a foundational reading. It's not we're not going to go into everything. So the specifics here are the ego hub. Is there anything you want to say about the illuminated design readings in general or our recorded readings before we jump in?
Yeah, I feel like you can get a taste of it here. And Ash and I was speaking about that. We don't really have a structure because we feel like if you read about these things, and if you have the human design book and you have the gene key books, there are a lot of things that you can know by yourself. So that we want to bring you something that's not the first thing you think of, and we almost like want you to know the basics before, and that's really when we can go into the chart. So even today, you're not, like Ashley was saying, you're not going to see us go into the ego and say, oh, the 26, this is this gate, and this means this. But it's more like the overview of everything. How does it speak to us, and how can we dialogue with it?
Yes. Yeah. And so as you are watching us do the readings for this, I want you to look at the charts and see if you notice any similarities that you have in your chart, because there may be something that we say to the person that resonates for you or for your design. So we will be going into a completely defined ego hub today and a completely open. So we have like the whole spectrum, all the gates activated in a defined center, none of the gates activated in an open center. So we're going to see how these two extremes impact somebody's design. So yeah, and again, the ego hub, let me actually share our slides. But the ego hub is, and this is what it looks like inside the body graph. The ego hub is the center of commitment and willpower. And you can see that we have the hypnotist, 26. We may say gate 26. We may say the hypnotist, thunder, which is gate 51, the manager, which is gate 21, and the father, which is gate 40. So those are the four inside this motor, inside the ego hub. So we're going to go into a chart right now. And this is an emotional manifesting generator. And she is the right angle cross of planning. And as you can see over here, Diana has all of the gates activated. Almost all of these have channels, except she doesn't have the 45 to complete this channel. So we have 2551, 4426, 4037. And so a lot of power going into this hub. And the question that Diana asked was, emotional manifester with a defined ego, every gate activated, but I have innocence motivation. I struggle having a burning desire to lead, compete, sell, manage, be in control, not controlled, while also seeing that somewhat my motivation transference desire. Any tips how I can honor my manifestor fiery heart while being motivated to just be myself and not get involved? Innocence. So, and this kind of came up, I don't know if it was on the embodiment webinar or the teaching where somebody was talking about the difference between the motivation of desire and the ego hub, which, you know, has this, you have to have a defined ego, have the desire to be motivated to do what you're wanting to do. But innocence is, anyways, Bella, did you want to get into that? Because that was something that we answered on the call, and it can be a little confusing. And this is PHS, everybody. Like, this is, when we talk about motivation, this is a little bit advanced.
Yeah, so Diana, you were on the call yesterday and we did speak about it. So I don't feel like we need to go into it in a detailed way, but when we speak about the variables, this is part of the variables in human design. We are speaking about something that's outside the line. We have the gate, we have the line, then we have the color, the tone, and the base. And now we're beyond that. So Ra said, first live your strategy and authority for 7 years, and then you're deconditioned and you can actually float and flow through the world. And then you can observe the variables. You can observe how you feel good in an environment, how you digest, how your mind is going, motivation, transference. So I would not set, like I said yesterday, I wouldn't set them like in conflict with each other, because they are not really on the same plane, because we're looking at different places. So first and foremost, because I think some of us are more than 7 years in the conditioning process, and most of the people at least watching, I don't know, Diana, how long you have been in it. I always want to go back to the basics for all of us, for Ashley and me as well. We go back to the basics. And you're a 2-5, and I believe that the naturalness, so if it's natural for you to live from that energy, the ego is a motor, and if it's natural for you to flow through the world like that, why would you make yourself wrong? You know, there can also be an innocence in seeing yourself, how you move through the world as a 2-5. And we know for the second line in the life's work and the evolution is, it is your fulfillment first. Nobody on the outside is here to fulfill you. And where a lot of 2-5s or 2-4s can get stuck is waiting for somebody else to fulfill them, and then feeling disappointed with life, feeling disappointed with relationships, and then not being able to keep that in, but then kind of going out in aggression with the other. Why are you not fulfilling me? So for me, when you can live your own fire and your own passion and your own freedom through that second line, it feels super, super important. That's the first thing I want to say. Ashley, where do you want to go? Do you want to go into the charts? What's the, it's so small for me, so I don't even know if I can.
No, do you want me? I can zoom in. I can zoom in on the.
Oh wow, that is so cool. The 55.5 in the vocation.
Yeah, actually, I wanna say one more thing about having that innocence, motivation, and a super defined ego. I think that in the moment, following your desire and taking one step at a time, and not getting too clingy towards like what you want. You are a manifester, so you are here to like bring something through on this plane, and you are here to inform. You're not here to be controlled, and you're here to be quite shocking, and you're here to transmit your message. You're here to share what it is that you're wanting to sell. So those are all drives, and it's okay to bring those through, because that's part of you, and you wouldn't hide it, because then you would be repressing a big part of you. So the innocence is just like returning to your naturalness, like Bella was saying, and accepting who you are. Because you also have if you look over here, where's the 25? Your pearl is 25.1, simplicity, acceptance, just accepting what is, just accepting your spirit, accepting your soul, and letting that be, letting yourself be that in the world, and sharing that with the community. You do have the channel of community right here, right? 4037, very defined. right? It's one of the channels that you have that are both on the black side, the conscious side. The other one that you have both on the conscious side is the 4426. And you're here to, pull in that fractal, that team, sell that offering, that thing to them. You have a message to transmit, you have something to share, you have codes to bring out into the world, and you have a lot of depth and versatility. So there's a lot of skills that you can share with other people. So very powerful motor here that's going to and a single definition as well. We can see that we have everything connected, and the way that your will gets to the throat is by you simply transmitting your message, going into your intuition. And it's like, okay, I feel like I need to put this out there. And that's where the innocence is too. It's like feeling into what needs to be shared. What do you need to inform people of? What needs to come out of you? And it comes from your depth, and you're sharing it through your excitement and enthusiasm. So whenever you get excited about something, that's the message, the thing that you're going to share. And you have the 16 in a defined throat. I have the 16 in an open throat. So you have consistent energy to speak about what you identify with, what you're enthusiastic about, what skills you've acquired, what things you've mastered. Your Mercury is in 37.5. You're here to share your voice to the community. We have that gate of community, right? You're here to share that equality, that tenderness. This is the mother archetype. So as a manifester, and I wish we had your astrology chart, because I'd love to see like what's kind of going on there. But for right now, I just feel like by looking at this, just bringing it to the throat through that enthusiasm of what you're wanting to share, the message you're wanting to transmit, what you're wanting to sell. And it could change, by what you're interested in. You have the two. So you're going to be picky with what you identify with. You're also going to be picky with, who you're going to share it with. You're not going to just share it with anyone. Your manifestor aura is going to pull in the right people and pull in and detract the ones that aren't meant for you. So yeah, that's what I
would almost say that the paradox that I can see in the chart is not your motivation and your strategy and authority. What I see here is, when I look at your pearl sequence, I see it's all Pisces. And we know how a manifestor is manifesting, and it's going one direction. And here you have all these gates that are in, and a lot of it is in the coding of humanity as well. So it seems like you're here to do something spiritual, and maybe also the innocence color is a 6 color, and I always kind of feel into the hexagram, how the hexagram is built, and the 6 line is the last one. It's like when you're here to just live as you are, and you're here to innocently say yes to the experiences of life, which is also a 6 line theme. So I believe that there is something here where I think you have to go after all these things, and they're going to be somehow in your life, and what you do in the world, out, like what your expression is going to become when you really come into the 5th line of your body, of your core stability, of your vocation, of your IQ. Like when that 5th line matures, I feel like your expression is going to have that poetic, kind of out there Pisces way to it. And I think, again, it's a little bit of a paradox with all these 5th lines, the radiance, the purpose, the vocation, and the IQ. I think that there can be a projection field. There can be also, we see that a lot more with 3 5s, but I think it's a part of the 2 5 as well, how the 2 is kind of taking you one way and the 5 is taking you one way. And how Ra sometimes says, the personality and the soul, they have nothing to do with each other. The body is like, I never needed you, so there is something, I don't know, there is something a little bit funny with your chart. I feel like I can feel in that there is a paradox, and I feel like maybe, again, I feel like I would have you on, Diana, to look into, do you have a Scorpio SQ, the 28th? So I feel like there are many different things, and it's almost like, instead of saying, oh, what should I listen to? I feel like be what's natural for you. And if you see some patterns that you are discerning that they aren't healthy, then you could look at that. You're supposed to be somebody with so many different expressions. You have the mother archetypes as your life work. You have the whole cross of planning, which is, we know it's how society has been ruled for the last 400 years. So there is something in you with this fifth line that is practical, that is detailed, that knows what's needed in the community, that can do things like step by step. And then at the same time, like your essence is innocence, is the 25 in the first line. Like there are so many parts of you that I could speak to. So if I don't have you on, I don't actually really know, you know, how I usually just go somewhere and I kind of paint a picture, and I don't yet, it hasn't come together for me.
She's actually on the live with us. She says that absolutely here to do something spiritual. I'm wondering, Diana, like, what are you doing right now? What is your business? Are you an entrepreneur? Like, what are you bringing into the world in a way too? And again, I think that it's going to be really important. I feel like I see the 61.5 and then I see the 16.5, and your enthusiasm and inspiration is really powerful. It's the way that your mind works. And Bella's talking about the fifth lines. They're here to have impact, but there is something about on a day-to-day basis, like where we see these third lines in a way too. This is where you're going to struggle. And this is where you're going to find your way. It's going to find the things that you like with your EQ, right? 27.3. What do you need in the moment? How can you nourish yourself? You are an emotional authority in a way too. So you're here to understand and ride the waves of your emotions. And you're here to, like, you know, be able to say what you need and bargain that and say, I'm doing this. This is the energy exchange. Come into my container. This is what we're going to do. And being able to just simply share that message, you know, be able to just put it out there and tell people and see who comes in. I don't feel like you're here to ask somebody, what do you want? You just know what they need. You know what they want. You're here to inform them. Don't spend a lot of time being like, well, community, what do you want to hear from me? How can I make an impact on you? No, you need to be fulfilled first in yourself with that second line that you have in your here. So I think that is going to be important for you if we're talking about business in a way and how you're exerting your will in the community. It's that you're here to just have a knowing of, this is how I want to serve. This is what I want to create for the community. And then gauge like what kind of impact you have when you put it out there. And then you can be like, all right, this went really well. How can we expand upon this? Okay, this didn't quite go well. And you're here to take risks in the community. You're here to build a really great community and build those and have and take risks there, because this is the daredevil archetype. So yeah, anything else?
A little bit more clarity, yeah. I think.
Oh, good. Now. Oh, wait, hold on a second. Let me just read this to you if it'll inform any of what you're about to say. I was doing human design coaching, but I was so inconsistent and it just wasn't working. So now I'm looking for jobs and it's not at all what I want to be doing, but we need the income. I'm passionate about soul-based business, but it just hasn't worked for years.
Well, the North Node is in Aries, 51 and 21, your authority and your initiative in the world. And it might take some time, you know, the world is changing. So I would not give up. I think the wrong question is, how can I be more innocent? That's like the wrong question. It's even misunderstanding that the variable orientation. I would say, how can I use my passion? Or how can I make money with my passion? I would kind of go the other way. That's what I feel for you. And I feel like there is something inside of your chart when we look at culture, EQ, third line, and then SQ, attraction, fourth line, vocation, IQ, fifth line. So there is something here where there are different themes in your life, and you kind of want to have the right key for the right theme. And this maybe doesn't go completely into work, but when it comes to relationship, it's a third line thing. So in relationships, it could also be that you haven't had the right people in your business. The 63 is going to give you self-doubt. Oh, it just doesn't work. I was so inconsistent. Well, maybe you didn't have the right unit around you. I have a third line culture, and it's important for me that the 3 to 15 people that are in my closest team are really the right people. Otherwise, if that unit doesn't work, nothing else works. And you with the 63, there can be a lot of doubt, and you can come further from the truth if you don't have the right team with you. And this is underpinned by the EQ that's almost holding like a chalice. It's almost holding the culture. So there is something here between your 8 and 14, something emotional, maybe in school where you didn't feel completely nurtured, or maybe where you gave because you felt like if I give, maybe I'll get something back. That 27 is a little bit tricky that way. It can go into that apathy. Oops. So I feel like there is something to go back to with the emotions, with the relationships. Like, what are you seeing as mistakes? Maybe there is some humor to infuse in when it comes to emotions, to relate to relationships, to those failures that you have seen in business. That seems important with the third line. And then when it comes to love, family, sexuality, like that, you are fourth line, and that's never nowhere else in your chart. So there is something here with the heart that is super important, with the trust that is super important. So the really close people to you, again, could go back to business. The people are really close, your business partner. There needs to kind of be a love story, a romance, not literally, but you need to have that romantic feeling of what are you going to do with that person that you're taking over the world with, whether it's intimate or business. So allowing the heart to lead in those even close relationship than the unit that you are in your maybe your work. And then I would say that the deepest place for you, you're 2-5, and the deepest place for you to unlock is the vocation and the IQ. And here, when Ash and I work with Venus, we often see this infinity 8 that kind of loops around with the core wound and the IQ. The mind is trying so hard to not feel the pain of the core. And here you have a master victimization that is part of your lineage, that you were the first person who really came here to be able to look at and feel and work with in an aware way, I would say, and have the map for it. So, but there is something here with your mind, and I have the 61 as well, so I know it quite well. I have it twice, and it's tricky. It can be like exaggerated. We have the shadow psychosis, and it's a fifth line. So your mind is really strong, and I feel like your mind is trying to save you. So maybe even your mind is saying, "Oh, those businesses were failures. So let's not go there anymore because we don't want to be victimized." But somehow you're still doing it, because by doing these works that don't work for you, you are the victim anyway, and you are feeling. The fifth line has that. The core wound of the fifth line is saying, if I stay, it's messed up. If I go, it's messed up. Like you go left, you go right, and it's still like it's. Either they are going to think that you're doing the wrong thing, or you are going to feel like you're doing the wrong thing. It feels like there is no way out. So for me, the most powerful place for you would be the Venus, and understanding how your mind is trying to protect you from your vocation, from your core, from that fifth line core of guilt and blame, and the 55 victimization. And I think what we always say in Heart Awakenings and when we work with the Venus is you need to include the SQ, you need to include the EQ, you need to include the attraction. And we have like a formula for, how you go back and parent yourself, how you start to include the EQ in relationships, and how you work with your life force in terms of the attraction. But that would really be my way of anchor you deeper into your purpose. And then you would never even ask yourself, am I on the wrong path? Am I living my motivation? Because as a 2-5, I feel like your life would just flow, and that fifth line vibration of your body, you would walk into a room and you would already know the impact that you have. It's not so much even doing anything. It's like leadership by vibration. Mm-hmm. So maybe it sounds out there, but I think all these three pillars, the culture EQ, the SQ attraction, and the vocation IQ, they are themes where they want you to use the right key. And the key for the keyhole is the line theme. So that you have to open the culture with the third line. You have to open the SQ with the fourth line. You have to open the vocation with the fifth line. That's the theme that you are here to work with in order to open the doors for everything that's there in the middle to start to take you in a path that is fulfillment, which is the path of the second line, fulfillment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I hope that this helped you have a little bit more strength and clarity in yourself, and helped you kind of like anchor into, you want to be a spiritual entrepreneur, you want to put yourself out there, do it. You don't need to have a job where you're working for someone else. That's never going to work for a manifestor unless you're really in charge of it. So allow yourself to be yourself, and return to your G. Allow that, like, jump into the void, take a risk, follow your intuition, follow your passion, and allow that to guide you. And that's never going to steer you wrong. Stay away from the mind. Don't let the mind tell you what you need to do. Don't let the mind tell you what's practical and logical. Maybe it's not practical or logical at all. And maybe you're here to universalize the spiritual and make it more tangible, make it more practical. Maybe you're not supposed to bring in these systems that are like, human design is really made for left brain people. There's a lot going on there. And I don't know if human design would be the thing for you unless it's a tool, but it's not the thing. So yeah, hopefully this was helpful. And thanks for being here live with us. It makes it so much better when you're here with us. And we'll see you around in the inner circle, Diana. Please let us know how it resonated. And if you have any other questions or you want to let us know of anything else that came up during this. So yeah. Ready for the next? Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Where are we taking the next from? Is it submitted or was it somebody?
No, I got it. It was J-Lo, actually. She submitted last month that I wanted to grab hers because I was looking for some difference in the charts, and a lot of people had defined egos for some reason. And then I just randomly clicked on J-Lo, and she has a completely open ego, which is complete opposite of this. All of them defined in a defined ego, nothing here. And this is one of her two completely open centers. So J-Lo is a 1-3 sacral manifesting generator, right angle cross of unexpected, completely open ego. Okay. So remember the themes for the ego are commitment, are willpower, we see worthiness here. We can see manifesting success on the material plane here as well. This is the vibration of money as well. And when you have it completely open, there's no preferred way of filtering what you're receiving because you're going to look at these open centers. And this is more so for everybody that's watching than J-Lo. J-Lo already understands this, but the definition is what's consistent for you. She has a lot of individual integration circuitry that we have here, or individual circuitry that we have going on here. And you can see that, is she a single? Yeah, single. She's a single definition, which means all of her centers are connected. And because she has her sacral connected to her throat, that's what makes her a manifesting generator. The areas that are white are where she is receiving from the transits, from the energy around her. So she's filtering through these white centers. Anywhere that there's gates, that's her preferred way of filtering. So when the light, so say she has, so the 22, the 37, and the 49, say that this light switch gets turned on. These are what's going to color her experience with that. We have grace, the mother, and the revolutionary, right? When you have something that's completely open like this, it's like, there is no color to it. It's not going to be colored by her definition because there's no gates defined. So she is going to be able to become wise about the themes of worthiness, of commitment, willpower, but she's not here to compete. She's not here to make promises. She's not here to, compare. So, and similarly, Bella has a completely open ego as well. So where would you like to go in this that people can benefit from?
I feel like a question here is like, why am I not valued? And that's the question of the open ego. Why are they undervaluing me? Like, why can't they value me for who I am? I think for me, I've lived that with my dad, for example. I don't think it's a theme that I've lived in general in my life, but I do feel like I felt it in school. I felt it, that I was valued for doing some things instead of just kind of being. So that feels like a theme. Why can't they value me? Or why can't they value this thing that I understand and that they don't care about? And I think that goes together a little bit with J-Lo, what I've heard you kind of say as well. You seem to be one of the few people in your family that's interested in those more esoteric systems and sciences. I do go also to the core wound of the vocation, the 5th line. So we have a resonance here with the last chart that also was the 5th line core wound, which is naturalness. So at the end of the day, your fuel comes from expressing yourself the way you are and go beyond the guilt and the blame and the, okay, I don't go left, I don't go right, or I go left or right, and it's still wrong. I also see that you have the 15, so 15 and 10 are programming partners. That's your attraction. So in your case, there is a really strong connection between the attraction and the vocation. So I believe that it's your close relationships, your intimate relationship more than anything that have led you to look at that core wound, to feel that core wound, and to maybe be in an impossible situation. But then through your naturalness, you found a way to breathe somehow again. And going one step further down, your purpose is leadership. Your purpose is humility. And I also remember from some of our interaction this week during the intensive, there was one moment where I was saying, I want to feel you, JLo. I want to feel your heart. I want to feel beyond the words. And now I wasn't thinking about the 31. I have the 31 in my attraction. So it's strong for me too. And the 31 is connected to the 7, right? And it's the president, spoken leadership. So we love to speak. We really love to speak. And there, I believe that humility, because the city is always beyond the human, is always beyond words. So there is something that both you and I have to learn in this life, that the highest humility is the silence of Jesus, of Christ. He didn't have to tell people who he was. That wasn't important. It was his presence. So I see that you have the 37, which we had in the other chart too. The 37 is your EQ, and it's through the heart. So just by that presence of being in balance with the feminine and the masculine, where there is silence and there is word, but there is a perfect balance. I see this 27 in your life's work. There's nurturing and there's being nurtured, and it's a win-win. Your relationships, you're here as a 1-3 to find win-win relationships that are worth it. And that comes from having a balance in yourself, in your expression, in your receiving. And a lot of it for me is actually expressed through the different lines of your chart. You are 1-3, but there are on the inside, you have several 6 lines. You have the 5th line core, the 4th line EQ. So I do feel like a very colorful picture for you. But at the end of the day, it's extremely important. Of course, you're going to take risks in your life, but that nurturing, that there's a balance in the nurturing of what you give and what you receive feels important. And I also feel it's important. I don't know if you're in a relationship in any way right now, but with that attraction, you're a wild woman. Your sacred sexuality is going to come out when you have a partner that can mirror you in that 5, in that 15, 6, in the 6th line. The 6th line, Ashley and I have that in our attraction as well. And we have spoken a lot about how complete that kind of sexuality is and how kind of disappointing it can be in the beginning of our lives when we have this seemingly utopia of what it is to merge with another being through our body, our heart, our spirit. And then it doesn't seem like that's what it is, but it's to not lose the innocence. It's to become a role model, I guess, on that plane. So I wish that you have the possibility to nurture yourself and invite also a kind soul that can experience this spirit, love, sexuality, merging with you. That feels what really would nurture that wild woman in you that I think has for many, many years had to mother. We know that you have 8 daughters. So somehow you're asked, I believe, to come down into the attraction, down into the purpose. What's your true leadership humility? How can you be nurtured into your wild woman so that's what you have to be, and there's nothing else that's asked of you. And then there isn't the question anymore going back to that ego center. Why am I not valued? Like, that's for the wild woman, she's so much flourishing, so she's never even that's not a question that she would even ask.
Yeah, I love everything that you're saying. And I love looking at the areas that might impact the ego and the story that the open ego would say, because completely open head, completely open ego. There's so many stories floating around from people that feel like they're not worthy to be here. Like, it's not worth it to be human. I'm not worthy. I can't live up to the expectations and all that stuff. And what we can see is also, if we go deeper into the wounding, there is this deep, like, this is who they want me to be. 10.5. You are here to be the heretic, to be woo-woo, to put that out there. But if you hid it and concealed it, you would feel guilty and grief, because that part of you would be killing, it would be dying. And you're the wild woman. And so you're here to be in the extremes. You're not here to like, just be like, oh, I dab, I'm a little bit in this. No, you're like, I'm full in this. And this is what I'm bringing through. But we also have to look at, you have the vocation. And I know in BBD, when we went into the brand fuel, we also went into Pluto, judgment, right? Judgment that you're experiencing in your family, in your tribe, in yourself. Or we also go into Chiron, where shock, and we have death, we have expectations, and this is the 42.5, which is endings, right? We have 53, which is beginnings, 42, which is endings, and there's cycles, and there's things that need to die here. And so I think that with the 42, we have expectation, detachment, and celebration. There's something in here about making life more lighthearted as well. Your moon is 46.4. This is the body, but it's also about delight, ecstasy. But I feel like when we can't accept who we are, we start to detach from our body in a way too. And we become really mental, and we become really serious. And this is, I mean, I'm a 5-1, I understand this, but it wasn't until I worked in the body, worked with the body, that I was able to start to embody all these esoteric concepts, that I was able to hold my spirit and soul together in my body, or hold my, I was able to hold myself, because I was more embodied, because the information that I was getting from the spiritual realm was coming through me, in me, instead of like this floating head in a way. And I see myself so much in you, because the wild woman, she's so connected. And so is the 46. The 46 and the 15, I feel this is a lot of nervous system energy. It goes fast. Depending on what your rhythm is, you have this old channel of rhythm. And I know that you are as quick as I am. Your mind works a million miles a minute, and you go super fast. And some people with the 15.5, they go slow. But I feel like you have a lot of nervous system energy in you that is like on hyperdrive. And when we're not bringing it into the body, because maybe we don't feel safe in the body, because our life has been surrounded by chaos or turbulence or crisis or shock or whatever, it doesn't feel safe to be there. It feels more safe to be in our head. It feels more safe to be there. So I think that, where was I going with this? Yeah, the 46 is just guiding you back. Your drive is to come back to delight of the body through the heart. So grounding all of this stuff in the heart and connecting to people with this stuff in that way. And the 15 is really great at seeing the synchronicities and I don't know, it's more of like the animal totems and like, I think I see you doing it with more astrology concepts than what I do it, like, oh, a hummingbird, and a hummingbird means this, or, oh, this crystal and this means that. I mean, you're into crystals too, but I really feel, I feel how quick you are. I have an open throat, and when I start getting into people's charts, I start talking like them. I have to witness myself. I can feel a lot of nervous system energy going through me. And if I don't ground myself, I can float away with it. So that's what I would say to you. If you don't include the body or ground into the body, you're going to float away. Because if you feel not worthy, or people aren't going to connect to you, you don't feel like you have your tribe, then you'd rather be in the woo-woo spiritual land than in your body grounded here. With that open ego. So I think that's what I wanted to bring through.
Yeah, just the last thing, you do take in a lot. You have more open centers than defined centers. You're quad right. And I think that we had looked at your design and your personality apart, and then there was, of course, even more openness. So I feel what Ashley's saying is so important, to ground it in the body. And that's the part where I felt like I wanted to share with you the vibration of you, of your heart, of you being grounded, of you being in peace, of you being silent somehow. And I feel like it's not that I want you absolutely to always be silent. It's just that I want you to feel a balance and not just have a to go to, because that's the easiest way to go, or that's the habitual way to go. Because we know with a 15-6, it can be extreme, but and we actually want it to be expressive. But if you're really truly a wild woman, you're going to express differently in different seasons. So in the winter, it's silenced and it goes to, there are things that are dying and rebirthing. And then in the spring, there's so much energy. So I feel like that is part of your process of feeling, when is it spring, when is it winter, when do I rest, when, because I guess too that I want to say, with the silence, if you have all that nervous energy, you're like, oh, maybe it's not the place to share. That's not true peace in you anyway. So I want you to come to a place in yourself where the rhythm is something that you can savor, and that you can savor that 15-5. And yes, it's a fixed rhythm. And I believe that as your life is changing, you know, with your lover, you're going to have a different rhythm than with your daughters. With our community, you're going to have a different rhythm. And somehow, looking at your culture, this is the last thing I'm going to say, you are a creator. And sometimes in groups, because you have the 39.5, which I have as well, you know, you are going to be provoking, and that's part of it. You know, you are going, that's 22. There is something in you where you can hold whatever you're provoking, you can hold it with grace. And knowing through that 39 in your Saturn, because Saturn takes a little bit of time, you know, you are working towards your liberation. And it's something, because it's Saturn, that in this life, it requires some time, it requires some work, and that's beautiful. So for me, as long as I feel that you're with us working on your liberation, it feels like you're walking your true life's work. And that part of part of what we've spoken to today, I believe, are those spontaneous things that we feel are ingredients of that liberation and balancing of all the parts of you.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all we kind of have to say. Oh, and right angle cross of unexpected. Let yourself be unexpected. Let yourself show up and provoke, like Bella said, and share all of yourself. And we may not expect what you say, what comes out of your mouth, what you do, how you act, what you bring to the table, but it's always valued. It's always valuable. There's always a purpose, a rhyme, a reason for why it's pinging for you. And again, a lot of your epiphanies are so that you can feel more and more empowered in yourself as a 1-3, so that you can come to the table as an equal and feel like, yeah, I'm going to hold my own, and partnerships are worth it and relationships are worth it because I can hold myself and I accept myself and I love myself. And we're seeing more and more of your confidence show up when before you didn't even want to get on camera. And now you're like, this is me. This is me. This is who I am, that's what I love. That's what everybody loves about you, JLo. So, all right. Well, I think we have had a pretty well-rounded chart reading, and we spent quite a bit of time in each of them. And I appreciate you all being live here. And I hope that something resonated with you personally too, because I deeply believe that everybody has a key within them to your own unlocking. So something in JLo could spark something, provoke something, share something, open something in you. The same thing with Diana. And you have something for them as well. So please, if you are feeling anything or you have a resonance, type it in the chat too. Like, let them know that, you know, this is me too. And we're in the transit of the 36, which is the gate of crisis, turbulence, humanity, compassion. When we can share in the human experience, it makes it so much better because we feel like, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not alone in this. And yeah, so much potential for us as human beings. And it starts first by knowing ourselves, mastering ourselves, and sharing that mastery with the world for other people to experience. And just be true to you, and that'll inspire individuality and uniqueness in other people. Any closing words, Bella? Are you good? You're good? Okay.
No, I'm good. My last words would just be with the 61, because I'm kind of going back to Diana. The 61, the 63, I guess the open head we were speaking to as well, it's really important to ask the right questions. And sometimes when we ask other questions, they can bring us far out. So if there was one thing I would, for all of us to take with us from today, are you asking the right questions, or how could you have more creativity around the questions that you're asking? That feels important.
All right. Well, thank you for being here with us, everyone, and we'll see you next time.